Hello and welcome, everyone. Welcome back to the Illuminated Podcast, where we go deep into the wisdom that's always been here. Today, we're going to go into one of my favorite spaces, which is the gallbladder system. I've been totally geeking out about this episode for a couple of months. It's going to be thick. It's going to be full of information and hopefully some helpful goodness all around the gallbladder system. But first, how's wood season been for you so far? It's been kind of a doozy, huh? Have you noticed where your growth edges are showing up? Do they feel free flowing or a little impeded, a little frictiony? And how does that show up for you in your life? How does that manifest in your body and your emotions and in your relationships? All big things coming up this wood season. Okay, so as I mentioned, we are coming into the gallbladder organ system today, which, as we discussed last time, is the yang pair to the liver organ system. And those two organ systems are governed by the wood element, by this spring season. Okay, and so just quickly, a little bit of a reminder about why I focus on the 5 elements. And that's because the 5 elements and how each of these phases move within and around us gives us insight into what's going on for us. And so what's happening outside of us is reflected in what's happening inside of us. So we get clues for what's happening inside our body and how to move with it by observing what nature's doing outside in the seasons and phases that we're in. So I hope that makes sense. And I hope that I always say that the 5 elements offer us a roadmap to how to be here, how to human well and thrive as a human being on this planet Earth. And so that's why we spend so much time focusing on the 5 elements. There's so much that they offer us. So as above, so below, as within, so without. Nature knows how to do transformation very well, and we are in transformational times, both individually and collectively. The old is dying, the new isn't yet formed, and the battle for our humanness, that special blend of the immaterial and physical matter, of spirit and animal, of heaven and earth, is being hard fought right now. And it's because it's through us that spirit, the heavens, divinity, is made manifest into the material world. And so we find ourselves in a time of constant barrage of psychospiritual and biochemical warfare, all of which affect the 5 element system, and especially the wood element, especially the liver, and especially the gallbladder system. Psychospiritually, we see this in more screens and less imagination and play, constant comparison and push to keep up, indoctrination versus cultivating critical thinking, which all keeps our attention on everything other than what really matters, which is our divine mandate, embodying who we are and what we're here for, the divine expressing itself. Biochemically, we see it everywhere. It's everywhere. It's a mess. We see it in the assault on our microbiome, on our mitochondria, on our metabolic functioning. It's a multifaceted move to gunk up our cells via toxins in food, water, skies, jabs, meds, glyphosate, EMFs, geoengineering, and blocking the sun and inverting our light environment and circadian rhythm, which is all key input that helps our body signal and communicate with itself and do all of the things that it needs to be doing. It's everywhere. And I'm not saying this to be scary or fear-mongery or to kind of put you into an alert situation, but it's happening. And I know if you're watching this, you're probably well aware that it's happening. And I think we need to talk about it and stop acting like it's not happening and stop just letting it happen and not, being with our bodies in a way that actually cultivates life and nourishes life, and just allow ourselves to go along with what's happening. Again, these are all ways of preventing our bodies, minds, and spirits to work the way they were built to work. It's a way of bogging down the light and communication pathways that allow our bodies their inbuilt, innate ability for self-healing and recalibration when we're thrown off center. All things governed by the gallbladder in one way or another. Every single thing that I just said has some kind of connection to how the gallbladder system functions within our bodies. So this is really important, especially for these times that we're in. We are in evolutionary times, in spiritual evolution and awakening. And we're kind of in this in-between space. Like I said before, the old is dying and the new isn't here yet. It's taking form. We're in the in-between. And the in-between is governed by the gallbladder. I'll say more on that in a little bit. I believe that the way we move through the in-between is by the descent, by going inward. The way out is in. We root more firmly into who we are and what we're doing here by going inward and getting to know ourselves and our bodies, not in bypassing, medicating, or hacking. I'm really passionate about this, and you've heard me say it a million times by now. I personally believe that the more recent spirituality and the push to ascend and transcend our humanity, our physical bodies, the one thing that we come into this life with, is a psyop. Ancient traditions focused on the necessity of inner cultivation and body connection in order to achieve soul growth and evolution. This is inverted now and leading to all the out-of-bodiness that we see, all the disassociation, the disconnection from self and the collective, as well as the anxiety and depression, and even all the way more, to the other side of the spectrum, like full-on psychosis. The gallbladder is considered by the ancients an agent of illumination. It circulates Jing that we talked a lot about in the water episode, this essence, this unique usness, our blueprint, the stuff that makes us who we are as eternal beings, made manifest in physical bodies. The gallbladder circulates that essence and bridges that divine guidance and body intelligence and carries that throughout the entire body. Another important concept in the conversation about the gallbladder is this concept of Zhong. It's Z-H-O-N-G. It means central uprightness within ourselves and how we're being within the world. The center is the empty space. So you can think of like our galactic center in our galaxy, which is this rotational heart, or it's a black hole that again is in the center of our Milky Way galaxy. Or you can think of it also as the heart within our body. The center is this empty space from which all life organizes itself out of and around. The gallbladder not only communicates with this centrality, it also helps to rectify and reharmonize our beingness around it when we move too far away from our core, from our center, from our hearts. So you can see this is an important conversation to have. And the gallbladder system, I think, gets very overlooked. I'll say more about that in a minute. So again, today's content is thick. If you haven't felt it already, it's some thick business here, and I'm totally geeking out to get to share this stuff with you today. We're going to be talking a little bit more heavy on Chinese medical theory, and specifically classical Chinese medical theory, which is an older form of the medicine before it was modernized during the People's Revolution, before it was sterilized and stripped of much of the spiritual essence that was instilled by the shamanic priestesses that predated Taoism and seeded the roots of this medicine. We're talking about the medicine before Mao called it traditional Chinese medicine. Ancient classical Chinese medicine views humans as a bridge between the heavens and earth, a special combination of spirit and matter. we view the body as more than just physical and anatomical parts. Each organ belongs to an entire living system and network, which governs physical and energetic and spiritual realities within our field. Clearly, these are big topics. This is big information that even I, as someone who has spent nearly half of my life devoted to this stuff, I'm still only scratching the surface of. So today, we're still only going to be scratching the surface, but I think it's an important conversation to have, especially during these times. This is rich and ancient information that's meant to move in relationship with us over lifetimes. We're not meant to understand it in one sitting or even in one lifetime, I think. As I've said before, we're talking about getting to know the unknowable here. So today, as always, let the information wash over you. Let it land how it does today, and trust that the seeds planted here will take root and work in your life the way they're meant to and in the timing that's right for you. So, a little bit more into being with the gallbladder and how this medicine sees things. Chinese medicine references the organ systems or meridian systems, which include the anatomical organ as well as the entire system governed within each network. So here we're talking about the actual anatomical gallbladder and also the physiological and psychospiritual functions and actions the gallbladder system cares for and oversees. So things like metabolization, activation of certain hormones, mitochondrial vitality, tendons, ligaments with the liver, fascia, interstitial fluid and spaces, and the lymphatic fluid, along with another organ called the triple warmer that I'll talk more about later. And also right timing, initiatory energy, follow through, courageous and aligned action, judgment, discernment, our ability to attune to and act in service to our heavenly mandate, our reason for being, our purpose, and growing into the fullest potential of our essence, our blueprint, our usness. These are all things that belong to the gallbladder system. In general, body systems and tissues are functionally defined, not anatomically defined. So like epithelial cells, neurological cells, both of these classifications, they hint to their function within the body, not their location. So the gallbladder system or tissue includes, but is not limited to, digestive tissue, neurological, hormonal, brain, spiritual chemistry, fascial and interstitial tissues, and so much more. It's not just an anatomical organ that we're talking about here today. So I'm sure, again, you can feel how important this gallbladder system is to our existence. And again, especially in these transformational times we're in. We're in the in-between, where not only the world is changing, but we're being asked to grow and evolve within the unknown, where it can be so easy to be thrown off center and distracted away from what we're really here for, which again is to embody our soul's essence and to let that radiate out as we create the new. So I want to take a minute to kind of sense into this system a little bit. I think that it would be very helpful to share some images of the anatomical location as well as the meridian pathway here. Okay, so this is the anatomical location of the gallbladder. It's on the kind of the lower right rib cage in our bodies, and it's kind of underneath and behind-ish the liver here. It's in the in-between. Anatomically speaking, it is in the in-between. Okay, and so this is the meridian pathway. This is what or at least part of what we're activating when we're working on Acupoints. So when I needle into Acupoints or when you are using acupressure on yourself. And you can see this is a long meridian. It starts here on the outside eye corner and zigzags, all the way up and down the sides of the head and then zigzags all the way down the sides of the body to the second to the last toe. And it's the third longest meridian. The longest meridian is the bladder, and the second longest is the stomach meridian. The gallbladder is the third longest. And you can see here that it's on the sides of the body. It's in the in-between. It's in both the front and the back, but it's on the sides. It's in the in-between. And so I just also want to remind us, having looked at the anatomical location and the meridian pathway, as we're kind of starting to get a sense for the way this system moves in our bodies, I want to remind you that the gallbladder system also helps to activate your mitochondria, those energy batteries inside the center of your cells. It also nourishes your tendons and ligaments. It helps to inform your fascia and circulate the intelligence flowing there. It circulates your essence, your unique kind of you-ness, your blueprint throughout your entire body and being. And so as you're watching this episode and as we're talking about this system today, try to notice how it feels as we're talking about it, as we're acknowledging and honoring it. Try to get a sense for how this system feels. If it helps to start with, smiling into that anatomical gallbladder location and saying, hello, how are you? Thank you for doing all you do. If it helps to start there and kind of sense how it moves from there, that's great. But try to feel inside your body how this energy is moving inside of you, where it might feel sluggish. Notice it lighting up your cells or feeling bogged down. Feel into its capacity for infusing you with more of you. Okay, so just a quick little bit on how allopathic or Western medicine sees the gallbladder versus how classical Chinese medicine sees the gallbladder system. Western allopathic medicine describes the gallbladder functions as storing and releasing bile. Very important. Really, really helpful in the emulsification and breaking down of fats and proteins, which is vital, but that's about it. Typical traditional Chinese medicine functions of the gallbladder include influencing quality and duration of sleep. So thinking about like rest and digest and detoxification as we sleep. It controls judgment and the capacity for decision making. Also, some important things, but not nearly as much as we just talked about before. This is a system that is incredibly overlooked and under-acknowledged and underutilized in working with the in-between, in working with transformational times, and just the general well-being of our bodies. So today, again, we're going to be talking more about the classical Chinese medical perspective of the gallbladder and how the ancient Taoists viewed this vital organ system. So something wild to note here is that Western medicine views the gallbladder as disposable. It's the second most removed organ in the body, second only to the uterus. Let that sink in. The uterus is the number one removed organ in the human body, followed by the gallbladder, followed by the appendix, which we now are starting to know is a sort of repository for our microbiome. I don't believe in coincidences. So I just want to take some time here and say that obviously classical Chinese medicine does not view the gallbladder as a disposable organ. However, every time I talk about the gallbladder, I get this question: what if I've had it removed? It's okay. As I've said, we're talking about something bigger than just an anatomical organ here. So while you can remove it, not only will removing the gallbladder not remove the patterns of imbalance and stagnation that led to the need for removal in the first place, nor does it remove the energetic system and spiritual aspects that the gallbladder governs. Yes, it further weakens a system that is already imbalanced. Absolutely. But the system itself lives on, functioning as best it can, even with the anatomical organ missing. This is a part of you that is built into your anatomy. It's a system. It's a being. It's a living and breathing entity of its own that just happens to have this little green toad looking organ as part of it. So if you've had it removed, you need to pay attention to this episode even more than others, because that energy is still working within you and needs extra support. Okay. So the gallbladder, so Chinese medicine recognizes different types of organs. There are the yin zong organs, which store and hold and don't drain. Those include the lung, the spleen, the heart, the kidney, and the liver. And I would include the pericardium in there. But that's a different discussion for a different day. And then it also recognizes the yang, fu, or hollow organs that drain and don't store. Organs like the large intestine, the stomach, the small intestine, the bladder, and the gallbladder. But there are also 6 extraordinary organs. These are organs that function like the zong organs and store essence, but are also hollow like the fu organs. So those 6 extraordinary organs include the brain, bone marrow, bones, vessels, the uterus, and the gallbladder. So the gallbladder stores bile, which is kind of like a kind of essence. It's this golden elixir that's vital for the well-being of life. And it empties, releases, circulates versus draining the bile in right timing to support digestion and emulsification of foods and of our experiences. And just as we've seen so far, the gallbladder does a lot more than just that. So just a little tidbit. It's not super important for our conversation today, but it was another kind of example of why the gallbladder is so important. It's special, and it has been recognized as special, since 5,000 years ago when this medicine was first coming into being. So a little bit more on the theory of Chinese medicine. Chinese medicine is all about relatedness. Each system works in relationship with others, and some are more closely connected than others. So to get an idea of this, I'm going to share a little bit more of what the 5-element energetic flow looks like. You don't need to memorize this. You don't need to read any of the words that are in here. All we're doing is looking at the way that these phases or elements move around each other. So we start the 5 phases here with water season in winter. We move into wood season in spring. Wood season generates or nourishes fire season into summer. Fire nourishes or generates earth into late summer, and late summer earth nourishes or generates metal, which is the fall or the autumn, and then back into water. So for our conversation today, we're looking at these connections here, this connection, this bridging, this center point between water and fire. And as we've talked about previously, the water element has a lot to do with this yin spirit, the sort of the embodied, innate wisdom that moves within our physical being. And the fire element governs the Shen, the spirit. It's the light of our consciousness and our sort of eternal spirit that lives on after our physical body passes. And the wood element, specifically the gallbladder, is that bridge. It's the messenger that sort of moves between these two. The water is the winter season and the fire is the summer season. And so just keep these in mind here. We're going to talk more about this here in a second. So I just showed you the 5-element flow, and the 5 elements are sort of the what or how the wheel of the year moves around. It's the seasons, it's the different phases that the energetics of nature move throughout a year. Now we're going to look at the body clock, or the chi flow, the way that the energy moves within our bodies. So while we have seasons and phases that our bodies move through, we also have these circadian rhythm, this body clock, where the 12 different organ systems take up 2-hour or govern 2-hour blocks within the 24-hour day. So the 12 are the months within the year, or the hours within a day. And the 5 is the overall larger phases and energetic that are moving through each of those months or hours. So here's another way of looking at that. So this is the body clock here. So this is another way of looking at the way that the energy moves throughout our bodies. Okay, so here we've got the gallbladder down here. This is the gallbladder time. We talked about this last time. Gallbladder time starts at 11 p.m. and goes until 1 a.m. And this helps us really kind of see, those relationships that I was talking about, that the organ systems work with within each other. One of the important, so you can see this relationship here, they're partners down here with the liver and gallbladder. They are paired within the wood element. Another important relationship that I want to talk with you about today regarding the gallbladder is the heart. The heart is the clock opposite of the gallbladder. And the heart is associated with the fire element, the Shen, like I was sharing about earlier. But it's also associated with the highest, most yang time of day and of the year. The fire element is associated with summer solstice. And so if we were thinking of this body clock as the 12 months in the year, the gallbladder is associated with the winter solstice. It's the return of the light. It's the return, or the initiating energy behind that yang kind of turning that happens at winter solstice that helps the water element, kind of gestate and, invigorate life and nourish it as it's kind of deep within the soil, so that it can, burst forward into spring. So I get that this is maybe a little bit confusing, but you don't have to get all of it today. I'm wanting to share this because these are important relationships. So the gallbladder here is the clock opposite of the heart. It's connected through the heart on this central axis here, around which all of these other systems organize themselves. Another relationship that I want to share about in regards to the gallbladder, I mentioned it quickly earlier, is the triple warmer. And the triple warmer is considered, it's a Xiao-Yang pair, which you don't need to know about for this conversation, but these two together govern the in-between. They govern the empty spaces inside of our bodies. So places like the interstitium and the fascia and the channels through which our bodies communicate and activate and things like that. All right. So I apologize for the thickness of the theory. Again, you don't totally need to know. And we're working on a couple of deeper dives into the 5-element phases and how they work, as well as the body clock for hopefully later this year. So keep your eyes peeled for that. But for now, all you need to think about is that the 5 and the 12 systems overlap and interconnect. They work within and around each other. They're not one or the other. They are both and. So it's not, well, I'll just leave it there. That's good. Okay, so we talked briefly about how the heart is the clock opposite of the gallbladder. The gallbladder is considered to be the emissary of the heart. Remember, I showed you on the 5-element chart where the gallbladder goes between the water element and the heart, but its clock opposite is the heart, so it's the emissary. No matter how far away from the center or from the heart that you've moved, the gallbladder will always rectify this and bring you back to your heart and remind you of your heavenly mandate, of who you are and what you're doing here. And belonging to the wood element and the hun, the gallbladder helps again to deliver those messages received from the above and delivers them into the heart and into our physical bodies. Again, the gallbladder helps us recalibrate when we're thrown off center. The gallbladder is our harmonizer. It brings us back to our center, to our core. We talked a little bit about how the gallbladder system relates to summer solstice through the heart and winter solstice through the water element. But it also relates to the equinoxes, especially spring equinoxes. And there's a classical text that talks about how there are two central points, which are, summer and winter solstice. It's sort of this central axis around which the entirety of nature kind of organizes itself. And there are two harmonizing points in the year, which are the spring and autumn equinox. So these 4 places in the wheel of the year are pivot points, or points of recalibration, of reset, of harmonizing. Things come back to center here and shift, there's a shift in direction. The light changes, moods change, temperatures change. Natural energetics follow this movement, this central pivot. But now we're kind of compromised here. We live in not natural surroundings. We live with air conditioning and heating and not being outside feeling the air as much as we should. We block natural light and use artificial light. Our natural anatomy and energetics are delayed around these seasonal pivots and don't pivot on time. So our gallbladder energy is impaired or inhibited or imbalanced and unable to rectify and harmonize us with nature, and our body takes a hit. So again, we talked about how the body is centrally located. So again, we're talking about this pivot. It's on the hinge, the sides of the body, along with that triple warmer, and the gallbladder circulates Jing in the in-between places. It's this inbuilt self-healing intelligence that includes deeper hormonal and nervous system realities that, when well, can change and adjust in an instant and are at the heart of the immune system and the battery power within the mitochondria. This function of the gallbladder system that can intelligently bring us back into balance instantly is largely unexplored, like I've been saying, even in modern Chinese medicine. But there's a lot of happenings that are beginning to become more prevalent and aware of this system and spoken about, especially in the fields of quantum biology and new biology. So all of these characteristics that I just listed about the way that the gallbladder is the heart's clock opposite, that it's the harmonizer and brings us back to center, that it rectifies our energy, that it's in a central pivotal location, and that it circulates Jing in the in-between. All of these contribute to the gallbladder's role as the officer of central righteousness, as it was referred to in the ancient texts. It harmonizes the center from which all else emanates and rectifies what's out of balance or off center, and governs our body's self-healing, self-regulating abilities as it also circulates this Jing essence. So along with adjusting our body's temperature changes and metabolizing new kinds of foods and experiences and recentering us and our biology after emotional shifts, the gallbladder also helps us remember who we are in our center, in our hearts, and take aligned action from that place. I often see people who have had their gallbladders removed move into a space of feeling off center, feeling kind of lost. I've often seen a lot of issues of substance substance abuse and addiction come post removal of this organ. But more than anything, there's sort of this loss of meaning or of purpose or of direction. And so I think that's something important to acknowledge here, how potent this theme of being centered and being able to come back to center no matter how far off track we've become. That belongs to the gallbladder. So also we talked a little bit about how the gallbladder works closely with the triple warmer in the empty spaces. Specifically here, I'm talking about the interstitium and the interstitial fluid and the fascia. Fascia is having a big moment, at least in my world right now, which is very exciting. It's such a special thing, and it's governed by the gallbladder as well as the triple warmer. So just quickly, that triple warmer is considered in Chinese medicine to be the master controller of the waterways in the body, which includes the lymph, the interstitium itself, and the fluid within there, which the interstitium is a fluid-filled network that runs throughout our entire body. It's a living system that responds, communicates, senses, and generates electrical signals via the fascia. So the gallbladder and the triple warmer move in the empty spaces, in the in-between. Just as the empty space in a mug is what makes that vessel useful, within our bodies, the empty space is where the divine and innate intelligence of the body and spirit lives and moves. And just quickly, a little bit on fascia. It's piezoelectric, which means that it activates with pressure. Electrical charge is created with pressure, like acupressure. And so this is a very special thing that we are just kind of scratching the surface on. Most anatomy textbooks didn't really even talk about fascia. They referred to it as connective tissue, which it is, but that was about it. It just connected the tissues. Most textbooks still don't, but for sure before 2015, didn't talk about this interstitial space and fluid and how conductive it is. It's also metaphasic, so when pressed, it can change from solid to liquid, from rigid to fluid and flexible. And so those are just important things to keep in mind when we're talking about this system. It's sort of this solid and liquid simultaneously, which speaks again to that quality of being in the in-between. It's and both. So something to think about here, because it's going to be an important part of this conversation as we proceed. So, and because it's important, and I think why it's having a huge moment is because everybody's fascia hurts. Since the Rona and the jabs, everyone, even very young people, are feeling tight and sore all over. As soon as they wake up, they feel this tightness in their bodies. Everything hurts. I hear this all the time. Everything hurts. And with these two invaders, the Rona and the jabs, we saw a profound strike to the interstitium and a kind of numbing or depleting of our essence, or a strike or kind of rapid attack that's depleted mitochondrial function in a way we've never seen before. This falls under the gallbladder's governance. And our ability to self-regulate, to recalibrate, to reharmonize within our bodies has been compromised. And now we're seeing things like slow healing, inappropriate clotting, myocarditis, autoimmunity, MCAS, POTS, MS, and other neurological issues, and even turbo cancers. Things we only ever saw in very old, unwell people, we now see in 7-year-olds. Cancers that used to take decades to metastasize now take lives in a matter of weeks or months. As I said before, the attack on our body's capacity for rectifying central righteousness, governed by the gallbladder, is very real. It's happening. So, on that note, and I'm not saying this because it's all doom and gloom. We have the capacity and the ability to work with these systems to make it right. It's the whole point of the existence of the gallbladder system, this very large, powerful presence within our bodies. We have the capacity and the ability to work with it, and its entire being, its whole reason for being, its whole purpose is to bring us back to center, to, infuse us with this self-healing, self-regulating, harmonizing energy. It wants this for us, and it devotes its entire existence to being this for us. And so what we need to do is honor that and support it. So a few of my favorite ways to support the gallbladder and the in-between are super simple, and you've already heard me talk about them a million times, especially if you've worked with me. So gentle movement, walking, rotational stretching. I love yin yoga for this. Even gentle foam rolling, structured water, and proper hydration. Structured water is what we're talking about here. It's the fluid inside of us. That interstitial fluid is structured water. And by consuming structured water, we sort of help cultivate that coherence within ourselves. We need hydration for everything, for all of our cellular functions. So drinking it can only help support that. It helps that those intelligent waters within us stay structured and responsive and brings nourishment and life into the cells. So another one is sunlight. Naked eyes and naked skin for at least 20 minutes at sunrise and sunset has the most broad spectrum of light and infrared light specifically, which, is a signal for our circadian rhythm. It helps regulate and modulate all of the functions in our bodies. Sunlight on naked skin, on naked eyeballs is one of the most important tools that we have for the entirety of our well-being. Get out there. You've got 20 minutes in the morning time. It's worth getting up for. And if you can, do it 20 minutes again at sunset. Red light with infrared can also help in a pinch. Nothing's going to substitute the sun, obviously, but red light with infrared can also be helpful. And then another thing that I love to help support this in between and the gallbladder system is sound healing or frequency healing. For those of you who have worked with me in my private practice over the years, you know that I've specialized in frequency specific healing, and part of it is because of this system. Singing bowls, tuning forks, solfeggio frequencies. These are all really incredible and potent tools for harmonizing our bodies and specifically this system and bringing us back into coherence. With the solfeggio frequencies, I will just caution your sources. There's a lot of shit out there, and YouTube is notorious for having nonsense and not safe tones and frequencies. So I would just offer that you want to be really discerning with your sources of sound, because you're infusing those frequencies into your cells, into your being. So a favorite source for solfeggio frequencies for me is always, and those of you who've worked with me in my private practice know what I'm going to say here, it's always Jonathan Goldman's work. I buy his stuff. You can download or buy CDs. If that's aging me, I still have a CD player in my healing room. It's always going to be Jonathan Goldman's work. He's brilliant. He has been mastering these works of art within and around the solfeggio frequencies with music for at least 30 years. He's a brilliant artist, and you're going to get good, authentic, legitimate quality with solfeggio frequencies from him. So there's a lot of info around this fascia and quantum biology these days. Some of my favorite sources are Dr. Catherine Clinton, Carrie Bennett, Dr. Tom Cowan. I think I mentioned Dr. Gerald Pollack and his book, The Fourth Phase of Water, in the water episode. And then also The Human Garage is a great source for those rotational stretches and more information about how fascia works in our bodies. All of that said, nothing beats your own touch and your own conscious presence. Self-massage, noticing and feeling how your body feels to the touch and how your tissues shift and sensations change as you connect with presence and care to your own body. Acupressure and conscious connection or even conversation with your body, especially the gallbladder system and fascia, are powerful ways to support ourselves. I know it sounds weird that you would have a conversation with your body, but if you've been with me for any amount of time, you know how strongly I feel about that. And there's incredible wisdom that comes from that kind of relationship and relatedness to our bodies. and potent, real healing. So something that I love to help support, either when I'm working with acupressure or self-massage, is a flower essence and essential oil blend from Lotus Way called Inner Knowing. They have an anointing oil and an elixir that you can take internally, which is back there, but also a spray. And if you followed me on Instagram last summer, you know that I used this a lot. I had some issues with sciatica and low back pain, and this blend helped clear that out. And so my friend Caitlin Western is a brilliant energetic kinesiologist that works with Lotus Way flower essences. She said, she was the one that suggested to me that I use that blend when I was dealing with that sciatica last summer. And she says about this blend that it's really helpful when we're pioneering new paths in our lives, when we're stepping into the unknown and trusting our inner knowing to guide us as we go. So you can see how this blend, I mean, even the label is green. It's got some green eagle fern in it, I believe. It really, for me in my mind, connects with this energy that we're talking about, the gallbladder energy, this in between, this directionality into what we're not totally sure yet, but there is strong directionality in there. And last summer when I was having that low back sciatic pain, it was for almost a month that I was kind of laid up with this. The sciatic channel, or sciatica in general, is a gallbladder imbalance. It's an imbalance of the gallbladder system. And it happened, unbeknownst to me at the time, a month before we decided to make this a podcast. So I knew things were kind of shifting and I was coming into this new expanded growth edge within myself, but I didn't know what it was at the time. I didn't fully know where we were going. I definitely didn't know we were going to launch a podcast in a month. But my body knew. That innate intelligence within me knew and was working with me and clearing things out and helping me to cultivate my inner knowing and my inner trust in myself. And so that blend really helped with that. So I highly recommend, if you are feeling those energetics within yourself, grabbing that blend. Give Caitlin Western a follow on the Instagram. She's incredible and so generous with her knowledge. It blows my mind how generous she is. And she's got decades of clinical experience with these essences. Okay, so on that note, we're going to get into some acupoints so that you can practice this acupressure with yourself. So I'm going to show you a couple of points and we're going to talk about them. So the first point that I want to talk about is Gallbladder 18. It's on the head. It's also called Chung Ling. This translation is support spirit. I call it receiver of spirit. This character here, Chung, refers to this sort of receiving something downward, like from spirit or from a lineage, from the ancestors. And Ling is this incredibly mystical character that depicts several shamanesses doing a rain dance. They're calling down spirit into the physical. And I'll say more about that in a minute, but this is this point, Chung Ling. It's on the top of the head. A trick that I like to do is find the apex of my ears, the highest point of my ears, and bring my fingers together at the top of my head. And that is this point here, this dew 20 point. And Gallbladder 18 is just it's like a finger width to the side of this dew 20 point, this highest point on our head. And you'll feel it. There's some indentions there on either side of that high point, that dew 20 point. This point is, I mean, as you can imagine, with a name like receiver of spirit, it's all about, kind of attuning to and connecting with our heavenly mandate. We, as human beings, have this birthright to be able to connect with God, source, universe, spirit, however you hold it. That connection is our birthright as human beings, as the bridge between heaven and earth. to connect with these spiritual forces and manifest their energies into the physical, to receive that divine intelligence from the above and to bring it down into our physicality, which includes the health of our physical bodies. It's built into our form, with our feet, our roots on the earth, and our head in the heavens. This point, like I said, can powerfully connect us to our mandate, which is given to us by Spirit. I like to massage and activate this point using Star of Bethlehem flower essence, which I've mentioned before. The Star of Bethlehem is the North Star. It's our compass in the sky. And so this flower essence helps to reconnect us with our inner compass, with our central axis, right? Kind of like the gallbladder does. And then I also love this blend from Lotus Way called Divine Within. I love to use this on this point because it creates that bridge. It connects the above and below, our divinity and our built-in intelligence in our body. So I love that point for this. Okay, so another point that I think is really important for these conversations in this time is a point that is kind of often overlooked. Again, it's kind of our theme for the day. It's called Zhong Du. And again, here's that word, that Zhong, that central righteousness. And then Du means ditch or stream. This point is on the thigh. This is the side of the thigh here. You can see this femur. And this point is, you'll feel it kind of like tucked under. It's in the in-between. There's a muscle there that you'll feel like a cleft in. And this point is a little bit more like 4 fingers width and maybe 1 other finger's width up into the side of the thigh. It's a really tender, big point. You'll probably, on most people, I feel their fascia here. I feel this crunchy kind of buildup of energy, and it is very tender on everybody. I've never found any person that doesn't have significant tenderness here. So just gently kind of run your finger up from, where your knee crease is, up your thigh in that kind of central ridge between muscles, and feel for that tender point there. This point is so important because its name, again, is Zhongdu, or central stream. It's referring to and stimulating that central flow within us. We're tapping into and connecting with all of the waterways in the body through this point, along with that triple warmer. This is sort of like the triple warmer point on the gallbladder meridian. So we're activating and connecting with the lymphatic fluid, the interstitial fluid, Jing, that easy water or plasma, that innate medium through which our body communicates, activates, modulates, regulates, and harmonizes here at this point. So this point is associated with the interstitium and the fibroblasts, the cells that eventually form the extracellular matrix, the fascia, directly, especially as it relates to the mitochondria. So again, those energy batteries that are housed within the cells that enliven body activity and vitality, referring to the zhong in the name, that central righteousness. And the du in the name refers to, again, that easy water, the Jing intelligent fluid and its movement within the interstitium, the fascia, the organs, etc. So as we talked about before, I feel this point is very important because, as we mentioned, the Rona and the jab especially have numbed, paralyzed, and depleted the mitochondria and the Jing that nourishes our fascia, that informs our entire being. Everyone, even young people like we talked about, feel tight, stiff, and achy. Illnesses are going directly into the middle layer of the body in the in-between. They're going deeper into the body right away, straight into the organs, bypassing the first layers of the immune system and the immune responses, and thus illnesses are more severe. They're longer lasting, they linger. We're seeing more chronic illnesses like we talked about, which disturbs the heart and the shen, the spirit. And then so thus we're seeing more mental, kind of psychological illnesses, from mild OCD to full-on psychosis. After all that said, this point is important for mitochondrial function. As I said, this point is tender on most. You'll know it when you feel it because it's that tender, and you'll probably feel that crunchiness underneath. My favorite flower essence blend to use with this point, or just when I'm trying to activate this system with regard to like mitochondrial functioning and dealing with these chemical and electromagnetic poisons that we're constantly being bombarded with, is a blend I've talked about before called Sacred Body, also from Loaded's Way. I like to put the anointing oil on this Gallbladder 32 point, and this blend is brilliant for a whole bunch of reasons. It activates our protective field and kind of helps clear out and shield us from toxic energies and substances. But one of the big reasons that I love this blend, specifically when working with the gallbladder system, is because it has the flower essence of self-heal in it. And self-heal is a flower that, you may have guessed it, helps cultivate our capacity for self-healing. And so I think that's something that's very important while talking about this system. This is really hard for me to say, but if I had to say, just get one, if you were asking me what one blend from Lotus Way should you get, it's Sacred Body every single time, period. Because of the importance of working with cultivating and recalibrating, harmonizing that self-healing potential that we have built into our bodies that has been massively burdened, we'll say, as of late. All right, so thanks for hanging with me. I know this was a big episode, but hopefully you hear my heart in this and you understand why I feel this is such an important conversation to have. This is such an important system to pay attention to, not only during wood season, the spring season where it's most active in the year, but also going forward as we move through these transformational times, and especially as we move into the summer, the season of the heart. The gallbladder's clock pair or clock opposite. The gallbladder is the emissary of the heart that is constantly working to bring us back to center, back into our hearts, back into coherence. So, as I said, we're in a time of massive change. We're in the chaos of becoming. And often when we find ourselves at these pivot points, at the hinges between the old and the new, things can appear to be at their lowest. It can feel like collectively and within ourselves that there's no hope, or like we're stuck and we can't figure out how to take that first step forward. This is what the gallbladder does. It's the initiator. It helps return righteous energy back into its central path. It helps activate that enlivening divine intelligence that infuses our being from the center of our cells out into the world, and ensures that that is the central current guiding us as we live out our mandates here on earth. Whenever you feel stuck or lost or off center, come back to the gallbladder energy. Come back to this episode, to the insight and tools we shared today, and remember who you are. Thank you so much for being here with me today. This may be my favorite episode yet, and I hope you enjoyed it too, and I hope you find it helpful. Thanks again for being here. We'll see you next time. Disclaimer: not medical advice. The information shared in this episode is for general entertainment and educational purposes only. It's not intended to replace consultation with a trusted and qualified healthcare professional. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have, and before beginning any exercise, nutrition, or wellness program.